everybody, welcome back to my channel. It's Veronica, aka at the Millennial Empath, here on YouTube and on Instagram. Today I have a very special guest, a friend of mine that I met last year at the Omega Institute in Rhinebeck. We have Maria Claudia Montes. Welcome, Maria.
Thank you for having me here.
So you are I totally believe you. You are a total multidimensional being. You are like a super creative, and you just have the most amazing like energy out of like almost anyone that I know, because it's so like vibrant. And I know you have a few projects that are in the works, and I really would love if you could just really introduce yourself to the audience, to the world here, and also share with us a little bit of what you're doing during this time.
Okay, so thank you so much for having me here today. And I thank all of you who are watching this, who are interested in becoming a full expression of who it is that we are being human. Right? And so to be able to reinforce our humanity and our connectedness, I am so happy and pleased to be able to share that with you. So my name is Maria Claudia Montes, and I go by Claudia because I have 4 sisters and they're all Marias. I have 3 sisters and they're all Marias. So Claudia, and I was born in Colombia and I came to the United States in 1973. So just as an immigrant, I have an experience I have a lived experience of being an immigrant. So I really do resonate with individuals who come to another country or kind of don't feel part of one culture or another. And it's difficult for us when we're immigrants, for example, or you're just moving to another town, that for me, being able to feel like I'm Colombian or American. I came when I was 7, so I'm not really Colombian, I'm not really American. So it was really important for me to explore that, right? Because, you know, as we know, our ability to feel grounded on this earth is our ability to feel connected to something greater than ourselves. And part of that could be culture, it could be the earth, and even just each other on a cellular level. So being an immigrant has given me an experience of really having to learn another culture and to really explore who it is that I am, you know? And then, so I also, I came here and I stayed with my parents, and then my parents passed away when I was younger. So I also have lived experience of being on my own when I was 18. My mom passed away when I was 14 and my dad when I was 18. And then so I was on my own. I came here at 7 years later, my mom passes away, and then 4 years later, my dad. And so it was really hard for me at first. I took out drinking for a long time because I didn't know how to manage my emotions. And I used drugs, not too much drugs, but more drinking. And so I was able to, I was also bulimic anorexic for a really long time, because I didn't know how to manage my emotions. I didn't know what emotions were. And when they did finally come, they were so overwhelming. I didn't know how to deal with them and I didn't know anything about emotions. So the only resource that I had was to escape. And so then I finally, after many, many years, when I was about 24, I found myself unable to take my own life. I tried 3 times and it didn't work. And I was like, by the 3rd time, I woke up from the floor and my sister was looking at me and she's like, you got to figure out what you're doing. And I was like, okay, I give up. I give up, I give up, I give up. I know it's not my life. I know that I'm not here because I can take it or I can leave it, but I have something greater to be here for. And so that kind of changed my perspective about life, that we're not here for ourselves. You know, we are here for ourselves in a certain way, but we're also here to be of servants, you know, to help each other. You know, like the kidney helps the liver, helps the heart. And so I really feel that we're just individual cells in one human body. And if we don't honor the kidney cell, and we don't say that the kidney cell is the most amazing kidney cell in the world, that the only important cell is the heart cell, right? That doesn't make sense to me. So each one of us has our own role here. And I think for me, it's been I'm 54 now. It's been a lifetime of trying to figure out what my role is. And I'm still trying to figure it out, right? So early on in my career, anyway, so I did go to rehab and eating disorder rehab and all that stuff. And by like, I think by 1990, I was all ready to continue my life in a sober, more grounded way. I was able to find within me a few more bits of strength. And then let's see. So in terms of my career or life career, my first passion was when I was 5 years old. I wanted to be two things. I wanted to be a fashion designer and a social worker. And right out of high school, I went to School Without Walls. And so I did an internship at a costume shop, and I fell in love, and I worked in costumes for a long time. I got my first degree in fashion design. And so I worked in the industry for a while, and I didn't like Seventh Avenue. It was too competitive. There was really not a lot of originality for where I was. And so I ventured off, and I became an image consultant. I became a makeup artist, a hairstylist. And so I really focused on helping people. The name of my brand at the time was Self-Empowerment Through Personal Image, how you see yourself and how that influences how others see you. So my first focus was focusing on the outer, because I felt, for me, I remembered when I wasn't feeling so well, that if I had a piece of clothing that made me feel good, all of a sudden I was empowered. So clothing for me is a way to, it's your armor, right? For the world. So the clothing for me represents who you are. So I always say, let's dress by design and not default. Let's design with intention what it is that you want to tell the world about yourself, right? And so that takes a little digging into who you are, looking through magazines, looking through and just pouring out pictures and pictures of the things that you like, and then thinking about your inside. How do you feel? And then if those two are congruent, you'll have a wardrobe that represents who you are, what you like to look at, and how you feel on the inside. And so when I work with individuals on their branding, on their image consulting, on how they present themselves to the world, then we look into their tastes. There are a whole bunch of things that goes into that. And so that at least is like, if you have a closet full of your best friends, it's a really wonderful thing, because you know that at least you'll always feel good in the clothes that you have. And especially if you have something important to go to, you'll always feel prepared. You know, oftentimes at the time, there's people who would say that I have a closet full of clothes and nothing to wear. And so I hope to help people to find something to wear that represents them, and it's their branding. I call it like your iconic self, right? So when somebody thinks of you, they're like, oh, this is her, right? Like we think of like 1950s movie stars, right? Mm-hmm. And we have an image about them.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I want to bring to individuals. It's like when you think of Apple, you think of that little apple, right? Yeah. When they think of Veronica, what are they going to think of, right? So that's what I help people kind of like distill who they are. And so and later on, after I got married about 20 years ago, and I had children, and so I stopped doing the image consulting and focused more on my children. And then I decided to go back to school, and I got a degree, and I got my master's in social work, because that was my second love, is helping people. And so this brings us to the intuitive and to the how you see yourself, right? So I did get my degree in 2015 from NYU, my master's, and I have my license in social work. And I worked at a hospital for about 2 years, and in a mental health clinic, outpatient clinic for a year with people with schizophrenia, major depression, bipolar. And I led groups, and I did individual therapy. And it was really amazing and beautiful. And so now what I'd like to do is to kind of bridge those two together. And in terms of my spirituality, I was born Catholic. I went to Catholic school when I was a young woman. However, when I came to the United States, my dad worked really hard and my mom worked really hard, and they put us to school at Catholic school. And it was really not the best experience for me, unfortunately, as an immigrant who didn't speak the language. At that time in the 1970s, it was really hard. And so I kind of pushed Christianity to the side because I felt that it just didn't welcome me. And I went to school. My high school was in Manhattan. I went to CDS school. And so when I would walk, I would take the bus to the train, from Queens to the train, then the train to Manhattan, and then another train to my high school. Right? This is what we do. And so when I would walk right in front of Integral Yoga over on 15th Street in Manhattan. And that's when I started taking classes. So I started taking yoga classes in like 1984, 83, 84. I graduated high school in 84. And that was like my first introduction to yoga and to Eastern philosophy. And I really fell in love with it. I fell in love with the calmness. And even though it took me a long time to go through my transformation and the drinking and all of that, when I finally came out on the other side, I realized that there's so much more to me than the physical. And so yoga and the Eastern philosophies really resonated with the idea that we're all connected, that we're all just energy, that we close our eyes, and when we open them, we have the ability to design what we see. We really do. And it seems far-fetched and stuff, but it's like when you begin to like feel in the flow, feel like the river, it feels easier and life gets less bumpy. So yeah, in an essence, that's me. So now I have 3 beautiful kids, 20, 18, and 16. And I'm home now. I'm working on my yoga, and more recently I've been doing some masks for the virus.
Yeah, at the time of this taping, we are currently in the middle of the COVID-19 quarantine. So Claudia is going to be setting up either a Facebook page or a Patreon. The information is going to be in the description box below. You can donate or like shoot her a message and say, hey, like I need this, and because she's amazing. She's making all these masks. And did you want to plug the mochilas behind you?
All right. So these are mochilas. They are made by the indigenous people in Colombia.
The Zagas.
The Zagas, right? So the idea of the mochilas is a beautiful story. So it's the story of the plant bee, right? And to the all right, let's begin. In Colombia, there's a section called the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. And there are 4 peaks, and these 4 peaks, according to the indigenous people from there, are considered the heart of the world because they represent all 4 weather patterns, and the people who were there before the colonials came 500 years ago ran up the mountain to escape from the colonials. And so recently, about 25, 30 years ago, they came down to tell little brothers, us, they consider themselves older brothers because their generations are so much older in the Americas, and their cultures are so much older. So little brothers, they came to tell little brothers that Mother Earth is suffering, that Mother Earth is just like a woman that has blood, or a human that has blood, and the blood is the rivers. It has flesh, you know, and the trees are the hair, and they came to say, like, how would you like your mother to be beaten up, to be scarred, to be broken, her bones ripped to pieces? And so they came to tell us that, and they said that Mother Earth is going to be very upset, and she's getting hurt because little brothers are abusing her, and she's going to heat up, and she's going to, what happens to a woman when she gets upset? She gets really hot and starts to, throw a tantrum. And so Mother Earth is getting really hot, and there are viruses that are coming up that are affecting us humans predominantly and only. So we really need to think about how we treat Mother Earth and how we even treat women. I mean, this whole society with plastic surgery, really? Like, this is what we're doing to the earth. So you take a woman, you open her face, you dig out, you take some bone, like, really, this is what we're doing to us, to our humanity? Like, and so we're doing the same thing to the earth, except that the earth is able to just kick us out. So that just tells us about our human value, right? Like, do we value so much more what we look like as opposed to like who we are and what we do for each other? We can't survive alone. We cannot survive alone. We have to do this together. And so if there's a message that I have out there, it's like, we're all cells in one human body. So we have to be the best cells that we can. Find out what you are. Are you a kidney? Are you a heart? Are you a liver? Are you a bone cell? What are you? And how are you going to contribute to this body of humanity?
Cool.
Oh, and the mochilas. So anyway,
I was going to circle back to that.
I'm sorry. So anyway, the mochilas are from a plant called bee. And the story of Bee is that she was a young girl, and this is legend, and she was very poisonous, not poisonous, but her tears and her spit and her urine was very, very toxic to the people who would be with her. And so she was hidden for a long time. Her parents wouldn't let her out until finally this boy came and wooed her parents into letting her out, and then she was able to be saved. And so the plant is a plant that is not very easy to manage. And so so it's a shapeshifter, right? So it was a plant, and now it's a mochila. And in the culture, the mochila is sacred. This mochila has a life of its own because it was once a plant. So the male treat the plant, make the fibers, and the females sew it. So there's always this divine playfulness between the male energy and the female energy. You can't have the mochila without the male energy, and you can't have the mochila without the female energy. And that is us. We have our mother's DNA and we have our father's DNA. We're both male and female. And unless we begin to honor both of those, we're not going to be fully functional. So the story of the mochila is a story of consciousness as well. So the plant has become this material. We are material, right? We sell our material to corporations on an hourly wage. So we are the material. So we can decide what to do with our material. So these women, while they're sitting in meditation and talking to the elders, begin to weave. And so this is weaving consciousness. Abu Rauma Gabi is the Abu Rauma Gabi. She's the entity of consciousness, of weaving consciousness into the earth, into reality. And so every pattern is unique because it depends on the woman who's making the mochila and the story that's being told. So some of the smaller mochilas are maybe a story between just 3 or 4 people. And then the bigger mochilas is a story when they're together in a big group. So the size depends on who's on the amount of people we're in the storytelling event. And then also the consciousness, the story that they're telling is going to change the pattern. So right now I just have like single layers because I'm steaming them and I'm getting to know them. And because each one has their own energy, I'm going to name them and then we'll have them available for people. But there's, for like general stories, there's patterns that are shown for when a woman is getting ready to be married and all of the advice from people. There are stories about earth. So the mochilas are not just another piece of accessories. It's really a holy entity that is welcomed into your life. In their culture, the mochila is what brings all the produce from the farms, from the gardens into the house, and from one place to the other. They don't have any other bags, any other things to carry them. So these are essential for them. These are essential because they contribute. The mochila contributes to the community, holding and providing, you know? And so they don't get washed. They never get thrown away. They get washed in either ash or lemon water. And so they're alive. And as I'm steaming them, I have 50 of them that I brought back from Colombia, and I'm steaming them and I'm getting to know them a little bit more. And I have a hard time with separation. But anyway, if you're interested, I bought them because I want to continue to bring funds and opportunities to the indigenous people of the Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta, the Mamos, who are the wise men, and the Zagas, who are the wise women. And so for more information, you can look up on my Facebook or account, which I'll plug in later. Montes, that's solutions.
And can we mention their name, like the name of the tribe, or is that like not?
So it's the So it's the Wawi.
Oh no! Oh, I keep thinking it's Tayuna. Like,
well, the Tayuna is the whole area. So the Tayuna is the whole area. So the four tribes of the Sierra Nevada, mm-hmm. The four of them are called the Kogi, the Arhuaco. So they are the Arhuaco. So there's one tribe that is called the Arhuaco, but they're actually the Ika. Then there's another tribe called the Wiwa, which are the ones that make these mochilas. There's the Kogi, and there's the Kamkwano.
Kamkwano.
So this is
every time I hear it, it sounds like Kankwamo, but I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Yeah, I think so. I haven't heard them say it in their own language. So, and then they speak a different language in Spanish, of course. It's the indigenous language. Romana, I think it's.
I don't remember.
So these are the mochilas, and I would like to offer them. And I don't want to sell them, but I'd like to offer them for adoption. Because I don't want to sell them. I want to offer them for adoption, but at a cost. You need to make sure the home is hospitable for the mochilas.
So if people were to purchase the mochilas, that money is going to go.
100% of the money goes back to the mamos.
Okay.
100%.
And I know that they were planning an agricultural, like they're doing something, like they're planning.
Yes, right. So originally I did a fundraiser to have money to do a seed project, like a pilot project to do some, because what happens with the mamos is that they don't work. All of their time is committed to service and to paying back the earth for our little brothers' use of the resources and their use of the resources. Like a priest, right? He doesn't necessarily work, but his service is always in prayer, meditation, and so the mamos, that's all they do. In the olden days, they were able to feed themselves because the seeds were self-productive, self-generated. You had a harvest, and then you had seeds for the next one. But now with multinational corporations and Monsanto, and they can't get seeds anymore. They can't get seeds that reproduce themselves. So every year they have to buy new seeds, and it's they can't do that. So one of the things that I was doing is I helped to translate a document for a grant proposal to get some money to be able to do some seed and food sovereignty, right? So it's the ability to allow these cultures to be independent, to not have to depend on multinational corporations for their food supply, which is unconscionable, that we cannot feed ourselves without having to rely on a company that's making billions of dollars on humanity. That's not how we are designed. I'm sorry. It's just like this concept that we have of of being product is just not my idea of what humans are created for. That's a ego concept, I think.
Well, it's falling apart right now, it seems like.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I think that nature is speaking to us.
Oh, yeah.
Nature is speaking to us, and it's saying, it's not about consumption. It really isn't about how many scarves you have, how many masks you have, how many things you have, but it's like, how are you thinking? How are you feeling inside? Are you in touch with your liver? Are you in touch with your kidneys? Can you move your pinky toe? If you cannot like have awareness in your feet, how are you going to have awareness in all of the experiences in your life? And that's why yoga is so resonant to me, because it allows you to begin to feel yourself on the inside. And then we start not thinking so much about what it is that we're seeing, which is the ego self, right? And then we begin to think about how we're feeling. And then we begin to realize how we feel affects how others feel. So when you say to me that my energy makes people feel happy and good, yeah, that's what we do to people. And when we're not, and when we're depressed and upset and feeling depleted, then we bring that into our communities, right? And so our consciousness, our feelings are what we're feeding energetically to the world. And so when we begin to understand our own ebb and flow, just like the ebb and flow of the ocean, right? Where are the rocks that we need to roll around? How is it that I can make this human body more at peace so that I can restore and regenerate? If I'm constantly on fight or flight, if I'm constantly afraid, I'm always like this, right? And so there's no way that the human organism can begin to repair. And so it's always going to be depleted. It's always going to be running, 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 running. And so what I hope to bring forward is the awareness that you have the ability to relax and restore. And so maybe through working with me, I can help you get to that place where you can begin to breathe into yourself and get to know who you are on the inside, right? In meditation, everybody always says, oh, I can't meditate. I can't keep my mind still. I'm always thinking, well, that's the whole idea. The mind, the brain, the job of the brain is to think. The job of the heart is to pump. The kidneys have a job. You can't just ask the heart to stop pumping. You can't ask the brain to stop thinking, because that's its job. But what you can do is to begin to learn who those thoughts are, right? You become the observer of the thoughts. And so once you begin to close your eyes and you have all these thoughts, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a list that I'm making. Okay, so that's my homeless thought. Okay. Oh man, school thought. Oh, okay. So there's always the thoughts, and you just become aware of like what the thoughts are, and you don't engage them. It's like, oh, that's a list. Oh yeah, so I need to get some more eggs, and then I need oh, wait a minute, I have to come back to focusing on my breath, right? So that's the nature of meditation. It's like, it's not like being silent. It's just like that song, Getting to Know You, right? Getting to know who you are inside and what the thoughts are. If you don't stop to listen to your thinking, you're never going to know what the program is. And you're never going to know how to change it. If your reality is one of lack and depletion, and how are you going to change that? You can't change it with the same mind that created it. Something has to come in to change that. And so sitting in stillness and being compassionate for the thoughts that you have. I mean, that's the greatest thing that I had to learn about myself, is to be compassionate and forgive myself for all of the things that I think I have done wrong. Again, the mind will beg you, plead you, woo you into doing things. And then the next second after you do it, tell you, why did you do that? You're an idiot. How could you do that? How could you do such a thing? What? You just told me to do it, and now you're telling me to do it. So how do you get to center? How do you decide? And I think through meditation, through breath work, through yoga, through talking to people who are on the same exploratory path, then we begin to learn why humans were created in the first place. And according to the Mamos, we're just created to take care of the earth. Go figure. To take care of the earth and to take care of each other. What else is there? Do we need all this other stuff. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. But
I'm gonna cut
um,
in because there's a lot that was said that's like really, really good. Especially the part where you were saying how it's kind of like we do kind of have this amazing ability to, like, the energy that we embody, that we bring forth to community, whatever it is, whether it's like you're happy and you're vibrant and you're helping to, like, it like shifts the energy of the community. So it's not just about the self, it's about everybody. um I wanted to ask, because I know you had said earlier, you were comparing, you were talking about how the mamos were saying how the earth is like a woman, and it's like the body of a woman. And the analogy, because I've heard this analogy too, it's like the abuse of Mother Earth happened around the same time where women started getting abused by the, I guess, the patriarchy, or the patriarchy was like starting, and that's when the abuse of women started. Regarding like the plastic surgery thing, what would you do, but what would you say to someone who like really feels like that's how, like, if they get it done they feel good, like then they feel good about themselves, like, not to like make the same comparison to Mother Earth, because I feel like that's that's we're definitely getting into like dicey waters with that at this point in human history. But in terms of if someone wanted to work with you and had that experience of like plastic surgery, um, how would you, I guess, what would you say to someone who like legitimately feels like they would feel better or have felt better because they had like a procedure done, or because they now look the way that they want to look?
that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that, because I have lived experience of this as well.
Oh my God.
I know. Ask me to totally have gone through it. And that's why I'm happy. That's why. Because I realized that I have been given all of these. Okay, I'm going to get to your question right first, but I want to just like say this real quick. My philosophy is like, life is going to throw you bricks no matter what, right? So life is going to throw you bricks. You can either be buried by the bricks, or you can grab them, stack them. And then eventually you're going to have this most amazing foundation for your house. And so I've been able to take all the bricks that life has given me and like really create a wonderful foundation of these lived experiences. And then later on, once that house is built, you can take one brick at a time and explore that. Why is this brick in my life? But having that beautiful foundation really does help. And that's, we're human. And so it is about emotions and feelings and things that happen to us. So when I came to the so it's plastic surgery. So if you could see my little ears, they are nice and back, right? But that's not how I came to the to be human. My ears were actually really far out. They stick out like little, like I hate, like Obama, right?
No.
And maybe even worse. And I have pictures of it. And so I had plastic surgery, believe it or not, when I was like 13 years old, because my older sister got it, and I don't even remember. They were like, "You want it? Okay, fine." So I miss my ears because my son and my daughter have the same ears. So you're not lying to anybody. You're only fooling yourself with plastic surgery, because your offspring is going to have that DNA. And if you change, then what are you telling your offspring? That you're not good enough the way you are. Okay? So first of all, just saying that if you are not comfortable with the way you look, what are you telling your generation after you? If you are a breeder, if you are going to have babies, if you're going to continue the earthly experience of humanity. So that's the first thing I want to say is, like, you might have a temporary fix, but your children and their children will carry your DNA. They will not carry the altered you. Secondly, explore what it is that is not making you feel good about the way you look. Is it how other people see you? Is it your perception of how they think that you should be looking or So really, I would explore what it is. If it's a nose, whatever it is, I would explore what it means to them, and how they fit into humanity. How is that going to affect them? Because it's not just your outside that you're affecting. You're affecting everything. You're affecting people around you. When you alter your physical appearance through plastic surgery, it's a huge thing energetically, and I think one of the things that we explore is like self-acceptance. Whose values are we taking in? Do I not feel beautiful because society has made me feel not beautiful? As my parents don't feel beautiful, so therefore they don't teach me how to feel beautiful. And I think it's a um, lack of awareness that we are born perfect. Every flower is perfect, even though it's different. And it's okay, it's okay, unless there's a damage to a part of you that you need to have surgery. You're perfect. You are absolutely created in perfection, and all the flowers in the garden are beautiful. They're all individual expressions of themselves. And yeah, they're all different. So if somebody wants to work with me who's contemplating plastic surgery, or that had plastic surgery and now is going through that congruency, like even people who lose weight, if you had a lot of weight and then you've lost weight, there's a new person inside. There's a new perception of who you are, or gained weight, or lost a job, or whatever it is. That transitional space is crucial. And even coming up as a teen, right? So from the lived experience, I can tell you, you're only fooling yourself if you have plastic surgery. But to really question, like, what is it about you? Because if my ears didn't feel right, now I fix them. And now I'm looking at myself. What's my nose? What does that do? What does it look like? Does it work? Is the point. Does the nose work? If it looks different, look at the dandelions and look at the roses. They're all different. You can't be the same. And then also, are you trying to fit in? Like, what is it about it? So I think there's so many dimensions to the plastic surgery question, that if you want it, if you have it, and you want to explore about it, I think it's important. I think yeah.
Okay.
Does that answer the question?
I think it does. So I feel like you kind of have the same idea that my aunt does. I'm not planning on getting any of that done to myself, just because I don't want to spend money on that. I want to spend money on other things. But like for me, it would be like, if a person like really believes that they feel that they would be better in the having of it, I'm like, do you? It's your body. If it's like, I know trans people who want to transition, like, totally fine with it. Do you? It's your body, your choice. For me, I'm very much like, let people do what they need to do, because it's all a part of the journey, whether you get something done or not. Um, and yeah, so if they come to you, then I feel like they're going to be getting like the emotional like awareness as to like what is the reason underlying why you want.
And if they do decide to do it,
Yeah.
then how do you become that congruency? Because now you're different, right? So how do you realign, and then how do you continue on the process? You know what I mean? Of self-discovery.
Okay. Yeah.
Because more often than not, if you're unhappy with a particular part of you, there's a reason for it. There's an energetic, karmic reason for it, right? And so it's understanding that. If you don't feel congruent, you bring a great point with transgender. If you don't feel authentically what this physical aspect is, and you want to change it, yes, you could change it, but then there's a congruency that has to happen again, right? And that beauty inside, to bring yourself from the beauty inside. And it's the self-acceptance, that this is the path, whatever the path is, And then again, thank you so much for bringing that into mind, and to just being in compassion, and being present, and holding space and becoming the witness for somebody else's expression. I say this often, that one of the goals in my life would be to just hold space for people so that they can feel that they can stand on my shoulders and jump into their greatness. Not stand on my shoulders because I want to be somebody to be stood on, but because I am here as a beautiful expression of myself, so that you can stand on me and then go into your greater self. Whatever that is, if it is surgery, then get it, but understand why, not just, oh, my sister did it, so now I'm doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and especially like breast surgery, I think it's really important to come to mind, because breasts are first of all, mostly indicative of women, right? It's a mammary gland. It serves a purpose. And how is that, like, what is it about the breasts that are interesting to you? And why would one bigger or smaller make you feel different? If it's an internal thing or a societal thing. I think that's the key. The key to, is it a society's impression on what you need to do, or is it really coming authentically from you? And so to be able to tease that out, I think is really important. Because when I say we're living consciously, right? If we're living consciously, then we need to know what every cell is saying. And we need to listen to the cells and to be able to bring them into congruency, because then our outer expressions will be incongruent as well. Right?
Okay, I have not asked you one question I wrote down because we've just been talking, but this is great. So let me throw one at you right now. All right, so this one. So I find that your energetic signature, as I like to call it, is very helpful to others because I call it ecstatic playfulness. I kind of wanted to call it erratic ecstatic playfulness, but I feel like erraticism, it gets like a bad rap. But it's good. It's good erratic. It's a good kind of erratic.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to others, I find, because you, at least with me, I find that you help me drop into my body more, because you have this ability to just help me just like laugh and like feel good regardless of what's going on. And you also help me to remember, like, oh, my own innate playfulness, and like my little kid who likes to laugh and play. So my question is this something you've always been capable of doing? Like once you got sober, and like even before like the addiction started happening? Like was that
Right, no, because that's my authentic self.
Yeah.
Right? The drinking and all of that stuff that I went through, the emotional turmoil, the emotional numbness, and all that was created because of life situations. But I think as an authentic self, I've always been a positive person. When I was a little girl, I even remember like 6, 7, 8 years old being called like the lawyer of the poor and yet not present, because I would always like be like, let's bringing everything up. And I always
the what?
The lawyer of the poor and the not present, because whenever people would talk about anybody, I would be like, speaking up for them and protecting people. And I would always, I think that the most authentic place that we've been is about 4 or 5 years old. And so I try to always remember, in the most ideal situation, what would my 4 or 5 year old be like, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what my situation was really, because we can rewrite our memories in terms of how they affect us and how we manage them. We can revisit the part of us that experienced that memory and then come to terms with that memory and then bring it back and be a healthy memory. So I try to remember the 4 or 5-year-old inside of me. And when I work with people, I with individuals, I try to bring that part of them back, because I think that that's the most authentic place we're not quite um, inculcated into our society yet. We're still pretty new in the world, trying to explore who we are. And then you could see that the 4 or 5-year-olds, they're really playful, they're really happy, things are good. And one of the things that I have to say right now, just like talking about that playfulness, I had an experience just the other day. I do children's yoga, and I'm working with a little girl. She's 7 years old. 7. She just turned 7.
Yeah.
And she's we're doing yoga, and she starts to do jumping jacks and push-ups, and then she's like, I really need to lose weight.
Oh no. Oh.
What? She's like, yeah. She looked at herself and she's like, yeah, I'm so fat. First of all, she wasn't. But the way she looked at herself with disgust,
Yeah.
really, like, it makes me want to cry right now, because this is how we're teaching our children to look at themselves. That this body isn't good enough, that they need to do something, they need to lose weight. I was bulimic anorexic for 14 years, for crying out loud. We need to do better. We really need to do better, because I worked at the hospital. We have kids that are, 7, 10, 9 years old trying to commit suicide. We have to do better, people. I'm so sorry. We have to do better. We cannot continue to rely on outer experiences to make us feel who we are. We have to do better for our children. We have to teach them that they're beautiful the way they were born, that they're intelligent, that they're magnificent, no matter who or what they are. It doesn't matter. They're born, therefore they are perfect in the way that they were born. And for us, bigger adults, to say something else to a child, to a new soul that has come to this earth to experience its greatness and its frightfulness, and to suffer and overcome and become, I don't know. I just, like, I'm still, like, trying to figure it out, because we have to do better. And how can we as community do better? Anyway, I kind of, like, went off, and I apologize for that. But
No, don't be. That's a necessary message if it came through, like, just now. Like, I definitely think it's necessary, because this next generation that's coming up after mine, and like the one before mine, we're going to be seeing a completely different world once this thing is over. Like, it's not going to be business as usual, I don't think, once we are able to leave our houses again after this quarantine. So, okay, so what question are you going to ask me?
right, so just to, like, recap the whole playfulness aspect,
Yeah.
go back to when in an ideal life, how would you have been as a 4 or 5-year-old? What did you want to do when you grow up? What did you want to do? How did you want to play? Because for a 4 or 5-year-old, everything is new, right? They're not in memory's sake like we are, right? So we have an experience. I see you, Veronica, and I remember Veronica from Veronica last week, Veronica Mamos. So I already have a concept of you. And so my experience with you may not be totally new, because I already, she said that, and that she means. For a 4 or 5-year-old, everything is new. And that's the truth, and that's the reality of life, that this moment right now is all we have. If we're looking into tomorrow, we're projecting what is, what will be, we're creating the future. If we're thinking about what happened 2 seconds ago or before, then we're reliving the past. So do we want to continue to relive the past, or do we want to create a new reality? And that's the 4 or 5-year-old mindset that I love. Because as a 4 or 5-year-old, it doesn't matter, if I've had this encounter with you a million times. It's a new encounter. This is a fresh experience, right? It's a new you, it's a new me. And we don't have to play that same role all the time, And then the idea of a 4 or 5-year-old mentality also goes back to dealing with people in your life, right? If you, I don't know for you, but for me, my husband, or when I have an argument with somebody, or a discussion, and it ends up into an argument, it's always the same argument. It's always the same story. And so we fall into these patterns of thought that we trigger one, and then everything lights up, right? Neurons that work together light up together. And so the idea of coming back to a 4 or 5-year-old mentality is that you're new. Your every moment is an expression of itself. Every moment is developing and open up like a bloom, right? So you have a new bloom right now. This moment that you and I are sharing is a brand new bloom in both of our lives, and will change how we see ourselves and others, right? And so coming back to that mentality of a 4 or 5-year-old helps me to kind of stay in the wonder of life. Like, I wonder, you know?
No, totally. Okay. So you are also what did you said you're a hypnotherapist?
Right. So one of the areas that I specialize in is hypnotherapy. So I became a hypnotherapist in 2004 after I gave birth to my son, because I used hypnosis for childbirth, and I actually orgasmed during contractions. And I like the first two babies, the first baby, I was on the floor like dying with pain, and they had to give me the epidural because I was like, no, I can't do this. The second one I called in, I'm like, I'm coming in, get the epidural ready. And then I said to myself, this can't be true. I have bought into the reality that somebody else told me that pain was necessary for childbirth. Sensations is necessary, but a sensation and pain are two different things. And so became a hypnotherapist. And through hypnosis, we're able to access that part of the brain, the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is the part of the mind that records everything. You're living, almost all of the decisions that you make today are based on the recordings of the subconscious mind. And so if a person has an issue, like say something happened to them when they were 12 years old, and they have not been able to get over it, and it has affected the rest of their life, we can regress, travel back to that 12-year-old self with your current ego self and lend ego to that child. I actually worked with somebody who was raped at 13, and we went back, we created a safe space. We went back and she beat that guy up, and she was able, yeah, what do you want to do? She beat him up, and then she was able to hug her young self and then bring her young self back to today. So this painful experiences that she has became resolved, and she wasn't a victim the rest of her life. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So once you're a victim, you still have a victim mentality, and you carry that with you. So you need to come to terms to that, to empower that part of you, and then you can bring back that part of you, and then you can become more whole. So when I work with individuals on something like that, on trauma, I'm a trauma-informed yoga therapist. I'm not just a yoga teacher. I'm actually a yoga therapist. So I don't just do postures and do a flow. We actually use the postures to integrate yourself, to become more whole.
So if people want to work with you, how do they reach you? Where do they go?
I have a email. My email is befreenow16@aol.com. So you can shoot me an email.
One last question. If you could give one piece of advice to someone who is just discovering their sensitivity, what would you tell them?
So I actually thought about this a lot. The most important, I think, is to be compassionate to yourself. And that sounds like an easy thing to say, is to be compassionate to yourself, right? And to protect yourself. And I have a little meditation that I do in most of my classes, and it's a radiant light meditation. And so this is what I would say for them to do. So imagine yourself, and you have a beautiful light right in the middle of your chest. It's a beautiful golden light. And then as you inhale, this golden light expands and fills. And then as you exhale, this golden light comes back to regenerate and renew. You inhale, this golden light fills your whole body. And then as you exhale, it comes back to be renewed and recharged. On the next inhalation, you open up, expand and fill, and this beautiful light radiates a few inches out of your body. And you could see yourself in this golden protective light, in this beautiful ball of protection. And then as you exhale, that light comes back to your heart, to your soul, to be renewed and regenerated. And inhale one last time. Expand and fill. And now this light is about 2 or 3 feet around you. And this is your golden light of protection. And once you've set it up for yourself, you can surround yourself with this golden light of protection. And the more you practice inhale and exhaling, expanding and contracting this beautiful light, you build your resiliency. And so you build this protection for yourself that allows you to stay focused on you and what you have to bring, and not necessarily be affected too much by the energetic forces that are outside of you, right? So when we, again, coming back to that meditation, that getting to know you, we want to tease out the things that are not authentically ours. And that's a lot of stuff. Like sometimes I'll pull words that I've heard people say, and I'll just, that's not mine. I don't want that, you know? But this energetic field that you can build around you to protect yourself as a sensitive person, as an intuitive person, because if you're intuitive and you can actually listen to the energy of others, you can really become very disoriented and depleted and ungrounded. So I find that this meditation, this golden light meditation, helps individuals to build an energetic field around them that keeps them safe, that keeps them whole, still being able to be present for other people and not let them affect you. So you can build, it's almost like a mesh, right? You can build the mesh as big or small as you can, as you want. When you want to be around somebody and you want to work with them one-on-one and feel their intuition, then you make that mesh very open so that you can open up to them. But if you want to just be in peace and be able to travel around the world, you're in this beautiful golden light of love, of self-appreciation, of authenticity, and nothing can penetrate that unless you allow it.
Thank you. And one last question, sorry. So having a one-on-one session with you, what does that like, it's not like a social work session. So what kind of sessions would these be? Like you're not a licensed therapist, psychologist.
Well, actually, I am a licensed social worker. I'm a coach. I'm a coach and I'm a consultant. So I don't do psychotherapy because it's not my model. It's not my favorite. But what I do is I am a whole person wellness individual. I work with the whole person. Whole person wellness is what I do. So we look at the 8 dimensions of wellness. 1 second. So we begin to look at the 8 dimensions of wellness, and then we begin to see how you are balanced in those areas. And, you know, first of all, we need to find out what it is that you want. You know, why are you coming to me for? And then, and that's how we work. What it is that you want, and then we look at you holistically. How are you on your 8 dimensions, and where do you need to work? Because we're, as I said, always we're multidimensional beings, right? So some people go through life looking at life through a telescope. I'm going to be happy when I find that over there. I'm going to be happy when that happens. And some of us go through life with a magnifying glass. I'm going to be happy if this happens. I'm going to be okay if that happens. And so what I invite people to do is to look at life through a kaleidoscope, right? So it doesn't matter. All the pieces are exactly the same. It just depends on how you focus the lens. And that's something actually that the Mamo said as well.
Talked about la cámara.
La camera, right? The aperture of the camera. And so that's our consciousness, right? The aperture of the camera allows us to zoom in or pan out. And so what I invite people to do is to be able to see life as a kaleidoscope. The same pieces change your perception, change the way you look at it, and all those pieces will fall into a different place. And so when I work with people, when I work with individuals, right, I work with them as a whole person, right? So whatever issue it is at the moment that you're coming to me for, and I work with individuals, as I said, both on a physical image consulting way as a trained fashion designer and stylist and makeup artist, and I can make clothes. I used to make wedding dresses and stuff like that.
Give me 1 second. I'm going to pause this because okay.
Yeah. So sessions with me will depend on why you're coming to me in the first place. You know, are you coming to me because of the way you look and you want to upgrade your image? Great, we'll work on that. Are you coming to me because you have self-defeating thoughts and you want to make a better life for yourself? Great, we'll work on that. Are you coming to me because, you know, you want to learn more about meditation and yoga and how to practice? Great, we'll work on that. So just because of my experience in life, because of I've studied so many things, I can help you with almost anything that it is involves the being the incarnate, right? I call it being incarnate, being in this flesh.
Yeah.
What does the soul want being in the flesh? You know, the multidimensional, you have spiritual, uh, you have spiritual, educational, academic. So all of these aspects have to work together as one. And
Well,
so, yeah, integrative. So in a nutshell, when you come to me, it's for integrative wellness.
okay. Well, thank you so much for being here. I definitely could talk to you for hours. We basically went over an hour.
Oh, geez.
No, but it's great because all those questions that I didn't ask, I'm gonna invite you back for like a part 2 because
This is so much fun. I really enjoy, like, it helps me so much because, as you see, to figure out what it is that I have to share, because I have a hard time promoting myself, and to really conceptualize what it is that I have to share, because I have done so many things. And so I am so eternally grateful to you for your focus and for your friendship and for your vision of me, of holding me in a vision and holding sacred transformational space for me to be able to evolve. And that's what I hope to do for others. So thank you for being such an amazing example of that to me.
thank you. Thank you so much for just like being an amazing friend and also just an amazing soul. I already know what I'm going to call this episode. So thank you so much, Claudia, for
I
joining.
love you. I love you so much. Thank you.
Love you too. You guys, again, her information is going to be in the description box, and she will be back. And if you have any questions for her, or if you have any questions for me that you want me to like ask her, because we talk all the time, leave them in the comments section below and let us know how you think, what you think about what Claudia has to offer if you're interested. And
And,
any
and you heard me now. And so if you say, oh, she'd be good for this, let me know.
her contact details will also be in the description box. Thank you guys.
Also, one of the last thing, I'm going to put a plug for the masks. Please be sure to be safe out there, guys. It's just cotton. If you need one and you don't have one, you can't find one available, be free now 16@gmail.com. Send me, tell me if you need them. Send me your address. I'll make some and I'll send them to you. Just for protection. You can use scarf as well. But in this time, if you need anything from me that you think I can help with, I'm here.
Totally amazing. Thank you so much.